The NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by EdgeBoost. Bank account built for better. Sign up today at EdgeBoost.bet with the code SGPN to get a $25 deposit match bonus. We're also brought to you by NYRA Bets. Claim your $200 deposit match bonus today at NYRABets.com/SGPN200. Promo code SGPN200. And welcome, everybody, to the NBA Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Tuesday morning, May 13th, around 11:50 a.m. Eastern Time. First of all, an explanation. Apologies here for the delay, but Terrell is having some Wi-Fi issues, and I'm here alone, so he's still having Wi-Fi issues. Side of the show must go on, so I'm going solo to break down the games on Tuesday. First of all, going to recap the games from yesterday. A lot to talk about. I'm sure some of you wanted to see Terrell, especially today, because the Knicks ended up winning, and they are up 3-1. I'll get into the recap of the games yesterday first, but overall, a pretty, I'd say, interesting day of basketball, where you ended up seeing the Knicks go up 3-1. You ended up seeing the Warriors, once again, just get destroyed in the second half against Minnesota. You also ended up seeing the Mavericks win the lottery. Tatum got hurt. A lot of stuff happened, so I'll get into each of those in detail in a second. Before getting to that, though, a reminder that you also can check out the merch store on the SGPN website, because we have a brand new promo code for you, because the Degens line of gear is live in the merch store, and celebrate, we're taking 20% off everything with the promo code DGENS. So once again, if you want to get yourself some SGPN merch, don't forget to use the promo code DGENS at checkout for 20% off. Anyway, starting off with the first actual, I'd say newsworthy bulletin point. It is definitely the Knicks going up 3-1. Celtics ended up blowing another double-digit lead as they led by 14 points and ended up choking that away. Yes, Tatum did get hurt. I'll get into that in a second. I think the Celtics would have lost the game anyway, to be clear. It felt like the Knicks definitely took control of the game before Tatum got hurt, and that was the nail in the coffin. Now, Boston, I feel like the main story for this team, of course, has been the hot starts and the really bad closing minutes there by Boston. It was most of the third quarter, though, instead of the fourth quarter in this game, as Boston ended up giving up 70 points in the second half. Defensively, they were atrocious. Brunson got going in the second half, and he ended up with 39 points and 12 assists. Tatum had 42. He played very well. Unfortunately, though, of course, the injury did rob the Celtics of potentially having a comeback attempt, but in reality, I think New York would have won anyway. Boston's defense, though, was just too bad in the second half of the game, and Boston ended up falling behind 3-1. So either way, question is, with the Celtics continuously blowing leads and now with Tatum probably being out for the year, he's going to be out for the series guaranteed. The question is, if it is a torn Achilles, then where do the Celtics go from here? It is a very, very tough question to fully answer, because you have to worry about the salaries with the apron system, and we might see the Celtics blow up the entire team. So that can definitely be a potential option for Boston. But I'll start off with the actual game itself, because the Knicks got punched in the mouth again. They've been awful in the, I'd say, early portion of these games, and Boston jumped them again. Boston had 39 points in the first half. Tatum got going. Felt like Boston was going to hit a bunch of threes again, and then you ended up seeing the Celtics enter halftime with an 11-point lead. So you figure, okay, we've been here before. Boston seems to have, I don't want to say figured out the Knicks, but it does feel like the Knicks offense was just not getting it done. They barely scored in the last, I'd say, 5 minutes of the first half, the Knicks did. And then you eventually just saw the Knicks get going. I remember that the main, I'd say, point that I saw, which kind of resulted in the Knicks avalanche, was that wide open Brunson three, where Boston just didn't rotate towards the, I'd say, wing. And after that happened, Brunson just hit a bunch of shots in a row, and the Knicks offense just kept rolling, and Boston just could not get a stop the entire second half, and that resulted in the Knicks coming back and winning. So normally, it was the Celtics' bad offense, which resulted in the Knicks coming back in the first two games. That was not what happened in game 4, because the Knicks offense was just fantastic in the second half, and it felt like Thibodeau made some adjustments. Felt like the Knicks got whatever looks they wanted. They got downhill. Bridges was great in the second half. The Knicks had 4 separate players with 20-plus points. OG was great. He had 20. Towns, with the broken finger, still at 23 and 11, and Brunson once again did have 39 points and 12 assists in 40 minutes. The thing for Boston is that, of course, Tatum had a great game with 42. Derek White was great too. Brown at 20, he was 7 of 16. I thought he was fine. He had some foul trouble, also had some bad turnovers. But the point is, it felt like one concern that Boston ran into was, in my opinion, the Porzingis minutes. I thought Porzingis was atrocious in the game yesterday, and it felt like the lack of, I'd say comfortability was definitely on full display. The shooting wasn't there for Porzingis. The defensive rotations weren't there for Porzingis. I thought that he was a liability more often than not when he was on the court. But in reality, I do think the Knicks definitely earned the win. They came back, they pulled it off, and now they're up 3-1. They're one game away for making the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll see how they look in this one. But Terrell's not here. I will still play the drop anyway.
Bing bang.
Because you kind of have to in that case. So once again, nice job by the Knicks to win an important home game. They haven't won many of those recently in the playoffs, so nice job by them. And now Boston is in the really dark spot of potentially being eliminated as a massive series favorite, and Tatum is going to be out for probably a long time. It has not been confirmed yet, but he left in a wheelchair. He called timeout about 80 feet from the baseline. Definitely not a good sign. He probably did end up tearing his Achilles, so we'll see what happens moving forward. As for Boston moving forward, it's really a tough spot because you're paying a lot of money to a lot of guys, and without Tatum, you basically have no chance. So the question is, will Boston keep it together? Will they blow up the team? To be honest, I'll save that conversation for when Tatum's injury, I'd say, gets confirmed on what he actually has, and on top of that, when they get officially eliminated from the playoffs. I'm not going to speculate about it now. I feel like I'll wait till after they get eliminated to worry about that. But the point is, it's not good for Boston, not just for this season, but for long term. And we'll see if Tatum also is going to be impacted in the rest of his career with this injury. So we'll see what happens. But nice job by the Knicks to come back again from 14 down. Good for them. Boston still can't hold the lead, but that's kind of the secondary concern now with the Tatum injury. Anyway, moving on to the other game. Not going to spend too much time on it because the Golden State lost again. At the end of the day, Minnesota opened up a commanding series lead as they have won all 3 games without Curry in the lineup, which was expected. Golden State lost by 7. It was a lot worse. They started full court pressing in the final couple minutes. Minnesota just couldn't keep the ball in play, and you ended up seeing Golden State force a bunch of turnovers, but they ended up losing by 13. So in the fourth quarter, they lost by 13. So they were up by 20. They got out. Golden State got outscored 39-17 in the third quarter. It was ugly, but either way, a point is you saw the Timberwolves take control. You saw Ant kind of take over that third quarter, and you saw him finish with 30. Randall had 31. Randall's been great, so shout out to him. Kind of funny how we were all so, I'd say, opinionated about the Knicks and Timberwolves trade at the time, Randall for Cat. And then it turned out that both teams are actually on the precipice of making the conference finals. So I find that kind of intriguing. But the point is, Minnesota did what they had to do, which was take care of business against a depleted Warriors team. Not over yet. Curry, according to reports, will not be coming back for Game 5. So maybe he'll come back for Game 6. Who knows? The question is there anything Golden State can actually do to save this series? Because on one hand, you're looking at a situation where Golden State's actually been somewhat competitive. At least they were in Game 3. Game 4, not so much. They made the final score look more respectable than it actually was. But the question is, do they have any actual answers for Minnesota? Can they do anything? And to be honest, I don't think they can, because I don't think this team's very good. I talked about this when they were entering the playoffs, and I said that they were very reliant on Curry and Butler. In my opinion, too much reliance, but that was definitely, I'd say, needed, because I don't think the supporting cast is that good. You're looking at the actual roster itself. Podziemski's been horrible the entire series. He had to play 33 minutes last night. He yielded 13 points. You're looking at Butler, who was basically invisible for most of the game. He had 14 points at 34 minutes. You had Trace Jackson-Davis, who had 5 points in 19 minutes. And Draymond was actually decent, as he had 14 points. Kuminga was good. He had 23 points. That's basically it, though. I mean, the team just doesn't have enough talent. And you're looking at Golden State, who really, I don't think they can score enough points to keep up with Minnesota. Now, Minnesota's been letting Golden State hang around in these games because it feels like Minnesota just can't stay locked in mentally for more than basically 24 minutes at a time. It feels like Minnesota just kind of coasts, and that's how Golden State is able to keep, I'd say, this scoreboard close for a decent portion of the game. Golden State was leading at the half. They had 60 points at the half, and then apparently Finch ended up calling out the team at half, as he should. They came out and they ended up responding by outscoring Golden State 39-17 in the third. The issue, though, is that Golden State just has really no talent without Curry, and Butler has to play better. Minnesota, of course, is trying to lock him down, and when you end up taking Butler away, what do you have? You have Hield, you have Podziemski, and you have Kuminga, who, a reminder, was basically a healthy scratch for about 2 weeks in a row for Kerr earlier in the playoffs. So I don't think Golden State can actually do anything. The one area that I would actually pursue to actually give them a chance, I would full court press a lot sooner. Minnesota can't handle a full court press. And yes, you could argue that it was garbage time. And at that point, Minnesota had the scrubs in, or they weren't taking it fully seriously. This team cannot handle a press. And I feel like that's the only option Golden State has. They've been trying to get, I'd say, up the aggression in the late stages of games, down 15 with like 3-4 minutes to go. Kerr's got to get extremely creative. Like, you're looking at them having arguably no chance of winning because they have no talent offensively, besides hoping that role players step up and hit some shots. But defensively, they really have to start full court pressing more just to try to force some turnovers. You got to try something because Minnesota was flowing to their offense way too easily in that third quarter. And it felt like Minnesota was getting some decent looks for the first three quarters. And then at that point, Minnesota coasted because they were winning. But Minnesota did score at least 27 in 3 straight quarters, had 31 plus in 2 straight quarters. They have to switch up something defensively, and I do think turnovers will be a big reason for that if Golden State wanted to make this game somewhat close or make the series close. Golden State had 16 turnovers, Minnesota had 21, had 5 turnovers, though, in the final 3 minutes or so. It's really tough for Golden State to find ways to win without their best player. And it's not like it was back in the day when they had Durant, they had other options where they could overcome an injury. They'd prime Klay Thompson. They just don't have that. So good for Minnesota. I mean, they did what they had to do. It's not their fault that Curry got injured. But I do think that Golden State, it sucks for them. They traded for Butler, made an all-in push. They were actually competitive, and then suddenly they win game 1, but the best player gets hurt, and the series is over. So that just sucks. But either way, nice job of Minnesota for responding in the second half after trailing at halftime, and they were able to open up a 3-1 series lead. I see people mentioning that it's interesting how people are downplaying how good Tatum is. Boston doesn't have a chance without Jaylen Brown basically leading the offense. I'll put it this way. I find it interesting Boston's favored by this much in Game 5. I feel like the argument would be Boston, of course, in a must-win game, might show up at home. But we've seen them over the years really not look that great at home in playoff games. We'll save the full breakdown for that when we approach the game, and once again, when Tatum's injury gets confirmed. I don't really like Boston laying points in that game as a spoiler. I feel like you're looking at Boston who had an issue holding leads. The question is, how can they actually score and get great looks? And Tatum, yes, the shot selection could be problematic, but a big reason for that is because a lot of the guys around him just weren't creating great shots on their own, and that resulted in a lot of grenade isolation possessions for Tatum. Now, Tatum can also be responsible for that by sometimes how he is willing to drain 20 seconds off the shot clock by trying to break down the opponent in isolation. But Tatum's a very good player. He's obviously an all-NBA caliber player. Boston is deeper than Golden State, for example, but you're looking at a team missing its best player, down 3-1, wondering how they're supposed to come back. It's not, I'd say, realistic for me to pick Boston to come back in this series without Tatum. If they had Tatum, maybe they would have a chance, but Tatum is their best player. Yes, he was really bad in the first 3 games of the series, but a reminder, he also had 30-plus points in the final 3 games of that Orlando series. He's still a very good player, and I feel like people will automatically have a little bit of prisoner of the moment situation with NBA superstars, with Shea, with Tatum. If you want to even use Jokic right now, who've been pretty bad in the series against each other. The argument is, well, they've been bad lately, so, maybe they're not as good as we think. No, I disagree. I think they're actually really good at basketball. I just think they're having a bit of a hard time when defenses are focusing so much on them, and you could argue that fatigue's playing a factor. If you want to throw out the excuses, the point is I'm not going to fully overreact to how much they're struggling recently. The point is they are really good players. Tatum, whether you like it or not, is definitely a top 10 guy in the league. Is he top 5? Probably not. I know people will argue that he is, but I think he's definitely top 10. It's tough to come back from 3-1 down when you're missing a top 10 player in the league. So we'll see what happens with Boston. It's definitely an unfortunate set of circumstances, but we'll see how they respond in Game 5 when they have the home crowd behind them. Anyway, there is one other piece of news I want to talk about. I'm not talking much more about the Warriors. They're all injured. What do you want me to say? The team's just not very good. Moving on, though, to what could be a rigged outcome. Either way, the Mavericks did win the draft lottery after trading away Luka and losing in the play-in. They ended up winning the draft lottery and should take Cooper Flagg. With Nico Harrison, you never know. But point is, they had a 1.8% chance of winning the lottery, and they did it. So the question is, if you end up getting Kyrie back around January, and you have Anthony Davis, who, let's assume for the sake of argument, stays relatively healthy for a playoff run. You throw in Cooper Flag. Do I think Dallas is good enough to be a serious contender in the West? The West is really, really deep. It's tricky. I'm going to say no. Serious contender, I think, is a bit of a stretch. Do I think they'll be good? Yes. I think Dallas will be a good team. I still have too many durability questions. Kyrie coming off of a serious injury in January. I don't expect to see him immediately shine when he comes back. We'll see if the explosiveness is still there. There are injury concerns with Dallas every year. Good for them for winning. But the argument, of course, is the rigged aspect of it, because they traded Luka to the Lakers without shopping him at all. And then you could argue that the NBA sweetened the pot a little bit by giving them Cooper Flag. I think that you can make an argument for it. It depends if you believe in conspiracy theories or not. Truth is, there's no way to prove it one way or another, but the Mavericks winning the draft lottery after trading away Luka in a very weird set of circumstances definitely suggests that there was a little bit of shady business going on. So either way, a point is Dallas did win the draft lottery. Good for the fans, good for the franchise, but damn, that's shady. I'll put it that way. Very, very shady. The fact that they had a 1.8% chance of winning and they got it. You could also argue that it also suggests that the draft lottery is pretty dumb, because you have teams like the Wizards and the Jazz who were horrible the entire season, and now they're outside the top 3, which is insane when you think about it, because both teams definitely deserve to actually be, I'd say, getting a top-tier talent, and now they're going to be getting a spot in the lottery, don't get me wrong, but still missing out on, for example, Cooper Flag, or if you want to make an argument for Harper, you want to make an argument for Bailey. They're probably going to miss all 3 of those guys. So it kind of sucks for the Wizards and for the Jazz. They basically lost 60-plus games in the season. I don't want to say for nothing, but definitely not for what they were hoping for. And you could argue that the lottery is good because it prevents teams from tanking. It really doesn't, because the teams that miss out on getting this top pick might just tank again next year. So you just get the same teams tanking over and over again. And when you're a small market team like Utah, how are you supposed to actually get talent? Because no free agents want to go to Utah, because nobody actually likes living in Utah. So the problem is, if you end up getting a situation where you have a very bad team like the Jazz, who can't just attract key free agents because nobody wants to go there, what are they supposed to do? You're supposed to build through the draft, but you're not getting the picks that you are entitled to basically get by being a bottom 2 team in the league. So the Jazz, I feel bad for. The Wizards have been incompetent for a while. They have some young talent. I don't know what Utah's supposed to do. You paid Markkanen a bunch of money. You have some talent on the roster with John Collins. You have Kessler's pretty good as a young player. Yes, the tanking was noticeable when they kept sitting a bunch of guys for about a month. But still, the Jazz can attract free agents. So they're just stuck in purgatory, and they'll basically never be good until they win a draft. So I find it kind of insane to me that the lottery, based on the current format, I think they should fix. I think that, for example, play-in teams should not be in the lottery, because you still are playing some form of postseason basketball. I feel like that would be some type of compromise, or maybe you can lock in the 6 through whatever spot, keep the 1 through 5 and do a lottery for 1 to 5. So that way you never get the insane Cinderella run for like the, for example, 1.8% chance of winning team to actually win the lottery, but you can still get the 5th lowest win total to win the lottery. So I don't mind maybe keeping the ping pong ball system, but limiting the number of teams that could actually get the number 1 pick. So maybe you have like 1 through 8. The top 8 teams can get the number 1 pick, and you go from there. But seeing a team that ended up having a play-in opportunity, they lost, they traded away their best player, you had a bunch of injuries, they got rewarded for it, I think it's kind of insane. So I would tweak the lottery system somewhat. If you want to keep the lottery for the actual unpredictability, okay. But I do think that there should be a bit more probability for the really bad teams to get a top-tier pick, because damn, the Jazz really need it. I'll just put it that way. I just don't know how you're supposed to be competitive if you're Utah when you're looking at nobody wanting to go to live in your actual city or in your state, and you're stuck. So Utah's just screwed. That's how it goes. But either way, good job by the Mavericks to win, I guess, and we'll see them draft Cooper Flag. Unless Nico does something dumb. We'll see what happens. Spurs got the 2, though. Opens up the door for a Giannis trade, maybe. I'll talk about that in the offseason, but still interesting. Wanted to mention it. think that it is pretty intriguing. Anyway, before we get into any of the actual breakdown of the games on Tuesday, a reminder that we're brought to you by our sponsor, which is EdgeBoost, because they are the first ever bank account for bettors. You can ensure that all Gamble transactions are approved. They have no usage fees and no imbalance, earn cash rewards, 100% approval for all betting deposits. You can also sign up at edgeboost.bet with the promo code SGPN, deposit $25 and get a deposit match from EdgeBoost themselves. They will match your $25. EdgeBoost.bet, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by NYR Bets, because the Preakness is right around the corner. There's no better place to get in on the action, and you can definitely get in on the action with NYR Bets. Sign up today using the promo code SGPN200 to get a $200 deposit match bonus, and also don't wait. Head to nyrbets.com/SGPN200. Claim a $200 deposit match bonus today, nyrbets.com/SGPN200. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, because they just launched their new game mode, Ladders, with the 500 times your entry by watching your favorite players climb the ladder. You can also sign up for your new account with the promo code NBASGPN to get a special pick and a first-time visit offer up to 1K bonus cash on fantasy promo code NBASGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast. Finished recapping what happened on Monday, both of the games and for the draft lottery. Time to move on into the two games for Tuesday. Starting off with what could be the final game of a series, you have the Pacers taking on the Cavs. Cavs are laying 7.5, and the over-unders at 229.5. For the injury report, definitely interesting because Donovan Mitchell got hurt in the middle of warm-ups at halftime. So we'll see if he ends up playing in this game. Point is, it does not look great. Apparently, he aggravated an injury he had to his ankle, so we'll see how he looks. Now, I think he's going to play. Will he be extremely drugged out? Probably. Will he look good? Nobody knows. But the question is, we saw Indiana in a similar spot in the last round against Milwaukee, where they had a closeout opportunity. You saw Milwaukee missing Dame, and you figure, okay, Indiana is going to blow this team out. But then Milwaukee got off to a great start. They led for most of the game. Indiana kind of no-showed the game and came back and won overtime. So you could argue that Cleveland is in a good spot to maybe having nobody believes in this game, and maybe you're looking at Indiana, who is sitting, at least in the back of their mind, with a home game for Game 6, and maybe they just don't have the same intensity level as Cleveland. I don't know if I agree with that. I think Cleveland laying 7.5 with Mitchell being injured and Indiana's up 3-1 is kind of insane. I think that's an insane price. If you're looking at Mitchell being healthy, fully healthy, he didn't get injured at the, I'd say, middle of Game 4, I can understand the argument. I don't know how well Mitchell can actually move. And I feel like when you're looking at the prediction for the series, we've seen a lot of high-scoring games. Cleveland's defense, besides one zone defense tweak in Game 3, they really haven't gotten many stops in any of these games. Indiana's offense has been a step ahead of this defense for the majority of the series. And Indiana, for the actual numbers, has scored at least 120 points in 3 of the 4 games. So Cleveland really can't get many stops. And Mitchell's been the main offensive, I'd say, catalyst, because he's been walking into 40 points in almost every game. So if Mitchell's going to be compromised and you still can't get stops, how are you supposed to win this game by at least 8 points? I just don't agree with the number. I understand if Cleveland ends up having a bit of urgency early, you want to go for, like I mentioned with the Warriors game yesterday, if you want to go for Cleveland first quarter, you want to make an argument for first half, a desperation element where they show up, I'd say, motivated. Indiana maybe sleepwalks a bit, and you see Cleveland go up early. I don't mind that script. But winning by 8+ points when your best player is banged up, I think is an insane price when you're down 3-1, or an insane line when you're down 3-1. This team can't guard Indiana. Indiana's been getting a bunch of great looks. They had an insane first half, which was really insane looking back on it because they scored 80 points. They couldn't miss a shot the entire first half. But Cleveland defensively has been kind of in shambles the entire series, and the only bailout they had was Mitchell having a monster offensive game, and that's less likely with the injury. So, do I think Cleveland wins the game? Honestly, Indiana's quite live. I feel like Cleveland, you could argue, after the Game 4 showing, it can go two ways. Either one, they no-show it again, they get punched early, and they end up folding, or they go down with a little bit of heart, they try to survive, and they'll go from there, trying to force a Game 6. But if Mitchell's going to be battling the ankle, first of all, am I sure he even completes the game? Like, I don't know how badly he aggravated it. There's a chance that Mitchell tries to go, realizes he can't, and then ends up just sitting. That's a possibility, too. He gets injured again in the game. But for the actual price itself, I got to go Indiana. I think Cleveland's too big of a favorite. I think Cleveland could be favored. I'd be fine with that, but I would have it closer, in my opinion, to like 3.5 or 4.5. The fact that the line has really not changed that much compared to previous games when Mitchell is potentially on one ankle. It is not what you, I'd say, expected to see for a spread. Maybe it's trappy, but to be honest, Indiana has been the better team for the majority of the series. A bit of denial by me because Cleveland, I thought some injuries played a factor in game 2, and you can make the argument that Cleveland, after taking control of game 3, solved this team. That's kind of what I thought happened, but that did not happen. Indiana came out and buried this team early, and you can't even use injuries as an excuse because Cleveland was down by what felt like 80 points before Mitchell got hurt in the first place. So I'm going to go with Indiana plus the points. I get it could be trappy, but to be honest, I have no interest in laying 7.5 with Cleveland if Mitchell's going to be banged up. I can't do it. For the total, I mean, Indiana team total over is intriguing because they've scored 120 in every game besides one, so that's an option. But I do think you're looking at Indiana offensively just having too many options right now. Cleveland has a bit of a defensive crisis they've still not addressed, and we'll see how that goes for this game. I'm hoping that the crowd will be into it. I'm hoping Cleveland can force a game 6 because why would I turn down extra basketball? But if Indiana won the series in 5, I would not be shocked. I think the price is kind of insane. You're looking at Indiana, who is healthy. They've been playing great, and they're plus 260 on the money line. Like, that's just an insane price to me. It's Indiana or pass. That's where I'm at for this one. But either way, hopefully we'll get a competitive game, and we'll see if Cleveland can extend the series by at least one more game. Moving on to the next game, you have the matchup between the Nuggets and the Thunder. Thunder survived, I'll use that word, in the game 4, as they were able to get the series evened up at 2. Did they look good? Not offensively. Defensively, though, they were fantastic. Now, you're looking at Denver's offense, which has been quite underwhelming so far in the series, as the Nuggets, besides game 1, they have scored 106, 113, with overtime, by the way. They scored 102 in that game in regulation, and they scored 87 in the last game. So the Nuggets have scored less than 103. And back-to-back games in regulation, they scored less than 107 in regulation in 3 straight. So Oklahoma City's defense has been amazing. It has definitely been the reason why they are tied right now at 2-2. They could easily be down 3-1. At the same point, they should have won game 1. So people are making arguments blaming Joker for the Nuggets not being up 3-1, just casually ignoring the fact they only won game 1 because he had 40 and 20. So Joker's been really bad the last 3 games. Oklahoma City's defense has been great. They've been physical with him. Refs are not calling much. Caruso's been great. You ended up seeing Hartenstein and Chet do a good job against him in game 4. But the issue for Denver was they couldn't hit shots. The whole, I'd say, arena looked exhausted because they played in altitude a couple days ago, had one day off, played again. Shea had 25 on 8 of 19 shooting. Jalen Williams was 2 of 13. Chet was 4 of 10. I mean, they combined for 25 points in the first quarter, which is disgusting. But Oklahoma City shot 35.6% from the floor, 24% from 3. Denver shot 31% from the floor, 24% from 3. So both teams could not hit a shot the entire game. So the question is, do I think the Thunder, first of all, should be laying 10.5? The spread feels a bit high. Now, I understand the argument. The argument is Oklahoma City is the better team, and I agree with you. However, they have still not been great in close games, so I feel like the argument is Oklahoma City, if they end up in another close game, do I trust their offense down the stretch to score enough points to actually open up a decent margin? I do not. I feel like Oklahoma City's offense has been ugly for most of the series. I know game 2 they blew them out. Denver, you could argue, didn't care. But since game 3, they've not been good offensively. Now, the defense has been incredible, and you're looking at Oklahoma City, who've been able to really frustrate Joker. Murray's been kept in check for the most part, and you're looking at Gordon, who's had a couple of massive shots. But Porter Jr. has been underwhelming as well. He's had a good game or 2, but the point is Denver's supporting cast is still not great. Westbrook last game at 6 points on 2 of 12. He was horrible. He was a team low -20 in plus-minus. I do think Oklahoma City definitely can win this game by margin, but based on how Denver's been defending Oklahoma City, I'd rather pick the close game. I like the under in this game. Total feels too high when I'm not sure Denver gets to 105 in this game. So I like Denver team total under in this game. It's been physical. It's been very slow paced the way Denver wants it. And I do think it'll be a half-court battle again because that is Denver's best chance of winning. Denver can't afford to get into a track meet with Oklahoma City because they're going to lose because they only have about 6 guys, and you're looking at Joker who would have to run the floor defensively in transition, which would not go well. So Denver has to slow the pace down. Oklahoma City is going to want to run. And I think that one-man adjustment that Dagnall made in Game 4 was benching Dort. Dort was horrific. He couldn't hit a shot. They brought in Wallace, who was really good. Dort was 2 of 10 from 3. They brought in Wallace, who was 3 of 3 from 3. So I expect to see Wallace play more in this game. He was great defensively, hit some big shots. I thought Wiggins was good off the bench too. Caruso's been great defensively. They just have more guys. So I do think you're looking at a spot where Denver will try to make the game ugly. They have to. They cannot win a high-scoring game, in my opinion. I know they won Game 1. I think that was more of an outlier now that we're deep into the series. I'm seeing a question about Thunder first half. Look, the Thunder really should jump this team early, so I don't mind it with the crowd atmosphere, and you're hoping that Denver can maybe find a way back into the game late. I don't mind that approach. Oklahoma City has been great in the first half of these games. In fact, Oklahoma City has covered the first half spread in every game. Oklahoma City's won the first half, I believe, by at least 5. I think it might be 6. But they've won the first half by, I think it's at least 5 in every game of the series. And then they kind of fall apart there in the second half. We saw it in Game 4, where they actually were leading at half. Then they ended up trailing after 3 quarters, and they came back and they won the fourth and won the game. So I don't mind Thunder first half again in this game. Don't fix it isn't broken. I'm kind of treating this series like the Celtics and Knicks series because it feels like one team is clearly more talented, and yet when the games are close in the fourth quarter, you trust the inferior team to get better shots down the stretch, and you question the big favorite's ability to close games. The Thunder, I've still not been impressed with offensively late in these games, and Denver wants to make the games ugly because they have been really good defensively in the series. So first glance, I like the under. I see a low-scoring game. Think it'll be close. I do think that you're looking at the Thunder, who should start off hot, but I do think eventually Denver gets back into the game. The problem that Denver runs into, though, is the series gets longer and you see a lot more, I'd say, fatigue setting in. The lack of depth is really concerning, and they need a good Westbrook game. They need it. They can't get by without it, and Porter Jr. has been banged up. Gordon's hit some big shots, but Murray was not very good in Game 4. Joker has not been good for 3 games in a row, which has been concerning. He was 7 of 22 from the floor in the last game. It just feels like the Thunder, with the amount of depth they have, can really overwhelm Denver with their intensity. And I do think Denver's going to try to match it, but I do think you're looking at a spot where Denver, I would take plus the points. I really don't want to lay 10.5 with a team that's been involved in a couple of wars back-to-back. I know those were in Denver. This is in OKC. I don't think Oklahoma City solved the Nuggets, for example. I feel like this is going to be a close game. I will pick Oklahoma City to win, so I don't mind Thunder 1-10. But I do think Denver will be in the game at the end. I will pick them to fall short. I'll pick the Thunder to win this game by like 5 or so. But I think the game's close. I think 10.5 is too big of a spread. But I like the under in this game. Give me another low-scoring rock fight as Denver might score like 104 in this game, which might kill the total itself. But I think that's an option. I see a question from Brennan, who's asking if I should be considering Chet or Hartenstein rebounds. The thing about Chet in the series, I know he had 13 rebounds last game. Hartenstein at 14. Hartenstein did end up playing 4 more minutes. I do think I would take Hartenstein if I had to compare the two of them for rebounds. Hartenstein's been very good when he's actually been active, with the exception of the struggle he had from the floor in Game 3. He's had at least 10 rebounds in 2 straight games. Chet, I think, can also have a solid game. Both are going to have solid games on the board. But Chet's had at least 11 rebounds in 3 straight. Ended up playing 26 minutes in Game 2, and he still had 11 rebounds. Out and say both. I think both guys could have 10-plus rebounds in this game. It's been kind of a common theme in the series, especially since I'm picking Denver to score less than 105 in this game. You might get a lot of bricks. So I don't actually mind either guy. So I guess it might just come down to your own personal opinion on who you prefer. I think both guys should have good games on the boards. I see Ken mentioning that he has been looking at the Thunder first half. It's been cashing every game, so there's really no reason why he should stop taking it. But he doesn't mind the full game. Thinks Denver wears down. You could be right. I mean, they ended up playing on Sunday. It's really not a great scheduling spot for the Nuggets because they have a lack of depth and they only got 1 day off with the travel on Monday, which is not ideal. I get it. Maybe that is why the spread is so high, but I just think Oklahoma City has to do a better job of closing these games. And even in the games they won, which was Game 2, which was a blowout, they won Game 4. the Game 3, Game 4, fourth quarters offensively were pretty hideous, and Oklahoma City got bailed out by being in the bonus. You ended up seeing a bunch of fouls at 90 feet from the basket. Caruso got fouled in the, I'd say, in the defensive actual area of the court as they ended up having a loose ball foul. Hardenstein got shoved in the back 90 feet from the basket for free throws as well. Oklahoma City got to the line. I didn't like the offense they were running, but they were able to get by. So if you're picking Oklahoma City, you might pick them to win in a rout. But I do think Denver hangs in there. I think they'll find a way. I like the under in this one. I think it'll be close. See David asking about Joker PRA. It's really tough because the volume is going to be there for Joker. The question is, will he actually play well? Because he was horrible in Game 4, and yet he still ended up with 43 PRA. So it is kind of tricky for Joker. He took 22 shots at 14 free throws. It would be under a pass because I'm picking a lower scoring game. But I do think Joker, of course, can have that monster game because he's the best player in the world. It's under a pass, though. Just based on how Oklahoma City's been defending him, I don't want to take the over in that one. I'll dare Joker to thrive against this defense. I think that Oklahoma City will do a better job of limiting his, I'd say, dominance. He could always still have a great game, but I do think that's a pretty high number, so I don't mind the under there for that one. I see, mentioning that Joker's assists have not been great, kind of wants to fade those. He's actually been horrible at assisting. To mention Joker's assists in the series so far, he has had less than 7 assists in every game. In fact, he has had more turnovers than assists in the series. Fun fact. So there you go. The assist-turnover ratio has not been good. The turnovers have been a problem. Joker's had at least 6 turnovers in 3 of the 4 games. He only had 2 turnovers in the last game. But if you want to go for a pretty, I'd say, obscure prop that I actually like, I want to see what the turnover prop is for Joker in this one. It's at 4.5, which is pretty high, but he has had 5+ in 4 of the last 5 games. I don't mind it. I was wishing it was a 3.5, but that could be an option as well. I think Joker, once again, has to have a great game for Denver to win this game, but I think the turnovers might be a problem. The assists might not be there. They have not been there all series, so I don't want the assists under for that one as well. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up, though, for the breakdown of the 2 games on Tuesday. Now it's time to move on into the lock and dog picks, the underdog entry. For that, the reminder that we are brought to you by our sponsor, which is Underdog Fantasy, because you can definitely capitalize on... Sorry, I already did the underdog read. My bad. We're brought to you by Rhythm, because Rhythm is the home of computer-based and model-based picks and props. You can dominate the NBA playoffs with the Rhythm models. You can also use the MLB prop markets with Rhythm. And remind you can also build a model, which is very simple and easy to do. You can also use the 7-day free trial to give it a shot. You can also use the discount codes that Rhythm has. They have a 25% discount code for the month with the promo code SGPN25. You have half off with the annual code with the code SGPN50. That's Rhythm, promo code SGPN25, SGPN50. Sign up for the free trial by using the link to sportscamppockets.com/RATHMM. We're also brought to you by MyBookie, because MyBookie.ag plays in every sport. They have the NBA playoffs, they have the NHL playoffs, they have the MLB cards, they have UFC, you name it. They props in every game. You could also use it for a ton of occasions. Also use crypto for easy deposits, like fast payouts. And a reminder, you can also sign up for your new account. And when you do so, use the promo code SGPN to get a 100% sales match up to $1,000. Tickets just by MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Circa Ultimate Fantasy Football Giveaway, because Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas is giving away the Ultimate Fantasy Football experience for a 12-person league to draft in Vegas and be treated like VIPs for their stay. When we'll receive a 2-night stay at Circa Resort and Casino for the entire 12-person league. You also have your draft at the Cabana Stadium Swim with a $5,000 food and beverage credit, limited transportation to and from the airport. You also get a welcome party at Legacy Club for the league. You'd also use the 2-hour open bar package for the league at Overhang Bar. Contest is from May 5th to June 30th. Enter at sportscamppockets.com/circuit, sportscamppockets.com/CIRCA. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Gaming Podcast. Finished going through both games on the card. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. Now, for the lock and dog, thought about going with a side or a total, but those have really not been going well for me. So I'm going to go with a player prop instead. The question is, who do I want to go with? And you know what? I think I am going to trust in what I think is definitely the rotations that Oklahoma City used in the last game. The question is, if Dort's going to be left wide open, do I think he actually makes his shots? And I'm skeptical of that because he's been really bad lately. And I do think that his minutes might get cut. I thought Cason Wallace was really good in the last game. I think what I am going to go for in this one, I'm going to go with Lou Dort. I will take his under points and assists at 9.5. You can find that available at -105. I think it's a good price. He's had 6 in each of the last 2 games. His minutes, though, got cut in half, basically. Played 19 minutes in Game 4. And I guarantee you nobody on the Thunder missed him. Nobody in the fan base missed him because he has been horrific all series. And you're looking at the offense being a problem for Oklahoma City. Dort's lack of three-point shooting in the series has been a mess. And Wallace coming in, I thought definitely helped Oklahoma City win the game. He had a big 3 in the fourth quarter. He's very good defensively. I will go with the role player fade here. I will go with Lou Dort under 9.5 points and assists. He has been just horrible. I think you're looking at a spot where Dort should play around 20 minutes or so. Maybe they'll take a wait-and-see approach where if he struggles early, they'll keep benching him. But I don't think it's a fluke he's been this bad. I think Dort's really not a great three-point shooter, and I think you're looking at a guy who's been jacking up an insane amount of volume, not hitting any shots, and you're expecting him to actually contribute. I think you're going to see more of a Cason Wallace performance from this game. I see that happening. There's also a chance Oklahoma City blows them out, and maybe you see them bringing the bench squad for the fourth quarter. But I don't mind Dort in a fade here. I'll dare him to be good for once. I'll take the fade there for the lock. See somebody asking, by the way, for my favorite side. My favorite side would be the Pacers, plus the 7.5. The spread just feels too big with Mitchell being injured. I get you could argue that it's a step-up game. I understand it, but at the end of the day, with Mitchell carrying the offense for about 3 games, I just have a hard time trusting the Cavs to actually win by margin in this one. So, Daniel, to answer your question, my favorite side would be Pacers plus 7.5. Spread feels too big. That's where I'm at for that one. Not going to mention it, though, for my lock because I thought about making a case for the dog for the Pacers money line, but I might go with a different approach instead. So I'm wondering what I want to pair with the Pacers spread for the actual dog play, because I do think Indiana has a pretty good chance of covering this game. The question is, who do I want to expect to have a solid game to help out Indiana's ability to cover in this game? And I keep going back to Siakam. I think Siakam's in line for a good game. Thought about fading Hunter. I've been fading his threes in every game, which has been working out quite well. Do I think Turner has a good game? That's a possibility too. Let me just quickly see what I want to go with for the Pacers here, because I'm going to go with a point play with the Pacers to cover the spread as my dog. I just want to see what I'm going to go with. Do I want to go with Miles Turner? I mean, Turner at 20 last game, he's actually been very good in this series. He's had at least 15 in every game. You know what? I might actually go with Miles Turner in this one. I think Turner's in a good spot. I'm not taking Indiana money line. I think Indiana can lose the game, but I think it'll be close. So I'm going to go with Indiana with the spread, but I will throw in Miles Turner as well for this one. Give me Turner to score, we'll go 15 points. So we'll go with Indiana plus 7.5 with Miles Turner over 14.5 points, and that pays out at plus 187 as my dog. Anyway, time to move on to the underdog entry for the show. So looking at the actual options, I will recycle Dort. I think Dort is in a bad spot. You could argue maybe he wakes up eventually offensively. To be honest, I'll dare him to do so. He's been that bad, and I do think Oklahoma City's looked better when he's been off the floor. He played 19 minutes in basically a must-win game. I do think that his minutes will be around there again, so I do see Dort's volume being cut compared to normal because a lot of his volume is based on him playing 30-plus minutes. So for the actual underdog entry here, I will run back Dort with the points and assists at 9.5. I'll just confirm that's actually on Underdog. So let me just quickly try to find it. So you can find the points and assists on Underdog at 9.5. So I will add that to my entry. Looking at the other options for this game, I see Siakam being mentioned, which I do like as well. So Siakam I'll throw in there. It's at 16.5 points. It's at 18 plus in 2 straight, 21 points in 21 minutes last game. I'll do it. Yeah, why not? Give me Siakam on the higher, 16.5 points as well. And then for the last one, do I want to fade Mitchell on a bad ankle? The volume will be there, but I really question how healthy Mitchell actually is, and he's at 27.5 points. You know what? I am going to go for it. I like having a lower in the entry. I think it's a good spot. Give me Donovan Mitchell lower, 27.5 points as the final choice for my entry. So once again, the plays here For the underdog entry, we're going to go with Lou Dort lower, 9.5 PA. Going to go with Siakam higher, 16.5 points, and we'll go with Mitchell lower, 27.5 points. Going to fade the injured player with the bad ankle. I think that's definitely worth a look. Anyway, point is that is going to wrap it up for the show. Once again, apologies that Terrell couldn't make it. He had some connection issues with the Wi-Fi. We'll be back once again tomorrow. I believe I'm not on the show tomorrow. I believe the schedule is going to be with Lonte and Terrell tomorrow morning, assuming that Terrell's Wi-Fi gets fixed. A reminder, though, that we do have a WNBA episode later on tonight. We do have the WNBA Futures episode coming out at around 6 p.m. Eastern. So if you do want some updated win totals, you want some title picks, a reminder that the WNBA season does start later on this week. So lock in there. Until next time, though.